It's like in drama, when you're in school and everyone used to hate it.
Yeah. I'm usually all right with these sorts of things once I get going.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Soundbyte. So today we're joined by Josh and Liam, who are from Validity. So Liam, I'll pass over to you for introductions.
No, thank you. I'm Liam Clark and I'm here with Josh Hanson. We're both from Validity. A little, short summary of our careers to date. We both worked at Synchro 4D, or Synchro Software as it was before it was acquired by Bentley. We spent 3 years there. I went off and spent 7 years as a consultant working in 4D. Josh spent
4 years
at BT. Josh then jumped over to John Sisk in the UK, eventually ending up as the head of digital. And then when he moved up into that head of digital role, I took the 4D planning lead role. We've decided to take a jump into Validity. We first met at university like 17 years ago, and we sort of fell into this niche that was 4D planning. We kind of didn't know what it was at the time, but I think it's grown into a real sort of love and passion for what it can bring to a construction project and its overall delivery. It was really born out of the success really that we had within Sisk and the feedback that we got from the project teams that we worked with, that it was sort of a really valuable process of validation, which is where the name is sort of born out of. We validate everything from design information, program information, constructability information, health and safety approach, design, access, egress, just general temporary work strategies, logistics. So it all comes together under this one 4D umbrella, and I think the USP of the business really is to put people at the heart of that. So rather than it being an offshoot, rather than it being building an animation, rather than it just being a digital tool that nobody really engages with, we put the people at the centre and ensure that we understand what they need from the process and tailor our approach to suit their requirements. And we use the digital tool with them in person. So really, like I say, emphasising on democratising the ownership of the programme. So making it visible to everybody, giving everybody the chance to own it, input into it and get what they need out of it. So it can sort of wear many different hats. We can wear many different hats, and we're always in the room to ask the stupid questions. That's something that we pride ourselves on, asking the questions that sometimes perhaps seem a bit too obvious or a bit too stupid, but quite often they're the things that have been unasked in other rooms where people just assume that they're covered off and the gaps are closed.
So I'm going to ask a very stupid question then. What is 4D, just for everybody in the audience?
The fourth dimension is the time element. So it's basically linking your 3D model to a program and seeing what the program is telling you. So you can see the bars, you can see the links. Rather than giving the industry another term, another D, the best way to explain it to industry professionals that have been in the industry a long time is it's a natural evolution of planning. So if you say traditional planning is your Gantt chart, it's your line items, you can do that in Excel if you wanted to with simple coloured bars.
A lot of people fall down the 4D rabbit hole where they're purely focused on the animations, and tender animations being one of the selling points, I guess, for contractors. But unfortunately, that seems to have become a lot of what 4D is. The industry is moving in that kind of glitzy images, but maybe not recognising the value like you guys are offering.
The animation's definitely got a place. I think it's a stop along on the journey of 4D. Ideally, you start as early as you can with 4D. A baseline of information, a baseline of approach, and then you work with the team to develop that, round that out, and you get to your sort of your tender periods, you press print and you say, okay, this is the development to date, this is our approach, this is what we want to do. But you've got a model behind it that's rich with not only the digital assets and the data on the project, but also people's thinking. It's a capture of the approach at that point with best intentions based on the information that we've got. And then as you kick on into that next phase and you get your next revision of design, you better understand your site constraints, you better understand perhaps your resourcing, different things like that. You start to sort of develop that further and iron that out, and you might hit another checkpoint where there's a client update or some kind of conversation, and you can press print again, and you just keep going on that cycle. And the animation and the images really are the printout from that ongoing development strategy.
Yeah.
Digitally.
Totally agree.
I think even the word animation just gives it almost a bit of a gimmick. Like, if I heard animation, I'd think like cartoon, or can you stick the flashy animation up on the screen so we can have a look? Or do you want to put it on a screen in the site cabins or something, just so it's a bit of marketing material? It loses its substance a bit.
One of the pain points actually which we've got here is around the control of the program. So essentially for upstream reporting, a lot of the time they're using obviously Primavera P6 to share that master program, and then it's supplemented then with a synchro animation or a fusor animation, let's say. But a lot of the time there's a big rush to quickly link everything together, part of that submission. But then downstream into the team, I see that they're using Excel to disseminate that information.
Yeah.
I guess that's where you guys are really focused on that collaboration within the team, putting people in the middle and using the program for that collaboration with the visualization to make it easier to digest.
Program's been built. The project manager understands it, the planner understands it, they're comfortable with it, but then your team come on board to build the job. You have certain people looking after certain packages of work. They're only interested in their packages of work. Only a couple of weeks ago, we 4D planning or build the project day type workshop that we have now regularly, and I started that particular one off with a quiz, so I thought I'll have a bit of fun.
It is Christmas.
Yeah, it is Christmas.
Was there a prize at the end?
There was some Percy pigs from M&S, which everyone loves.
Nice.
Yeah, started off with a quiz, and in that room you had engineers, senior engineers, project managers, site managers, logistics manager, and the planner, facade package manager, structures package manager. And at the end of it, we got through the quiz, and people were saying, do you know what? I was surprised. I didn't know half of that. They didn't know when the facade was starting. They didn't know how many pores were in the frame. Just simple like things that you'd. I mean, as me on a project, I'd want to know though that little bit of detail just to get my head around it. And I think the beauty of bringing the 4D model into that space is that you can't really hide or not understand the picture. If you chuck a set of GAs up and you're flicking between the GAs and your bar chart, whether it's in P6, Asta, Microsoft Project, you're constantly confusing people when you're flicking between the information, and people aren't following it. Whereas the 4D model, it's fully backed by a logic link program, and like Liam touched on, it's got real data behind it. So engineering drawings, temporary works drawings, 3D models that have been coordinated, bits of modelling that we filled in ourselves that wouldn't typically get modelled, like we touched on all your temporary works and logistics items and access and egress. And it naturally gets people to collaborate and ask questions and talk to each other.
You've got people that understand their own package, their own deliverables down to the minute interval. But like you say, when you see that overlaid with somebody else's 30-minute intervals in that visual, quite often there is a disagreement about, yes, I didn't understand that you were going to be trying to get in there or access through there. That's where I need to be. And
yes,
it's flushing out all of those things as early as possible.
I used to see it where there was this trade by trade handover. So obviously in Hong Kong we build a lot of vertical buildings here where you've got a lot of repetition, and essentially if you mess the sequence up on one floor and you can copy it for 50-60 other floors, that's an expensive mistake by the time you get to the top of the building. So I do see definitely the value of that virtual sequence and getting everybody together to collaborate before you actually get there and start to incur the cost in these meetings. So if I'm if I know nothing about 4D and I wanted to put some good 4D principles into the project, what are the main parts of 4D that I should be looking for, as well as hiring Validity?
But I'd say number one is, again, with the animations and just with the process generally, you can have the most advanced, detailed, sort of fully rounded 4D model process. But if you arrive on site on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and you're sat in the room on your own and nobody else is interested in coming to have a look at it, there's no value to it. Getting people involved, as many people as possible from a wider variety of disciplines as possible, and you will get the most value out of it, would be my number one point. Number two is probably value over visual. So in the early stages, and I think the prettification or the visual render gloss can kind of come later. I think in these early stages where you're trying to get buy-in, you're trying to find value, you're trying to sort of make decisions. It doesn't need to be a hugely detailed model. You can just work with spatial objects, zones, sort of placeholders really, to get things off the ground and get people into a rhythm so that they understand what they're going to see, the sorts of decisions that they can try and take. So I wouldn't get too bogged down in that early detail, and sort of develop that as you go. Detail in the model. You need a relevant level of detail based on the detail really in the work breakdown structure. So ensuring that 95% of line items in your program are represented. Otherwise, you're only really giving, I guess, a false impression of what site might look like at any one point. And equally, as Josh mentioned, sort of building and filling in the gaps. So your earthworks, your logistics, your temporary work, sort of going through that cycle, as you said, James, on vertical construction, looking at your back propping, looking at your edge protection, looking at your striking of props, and moving that cycle up through the structure. Yeah. Quite often there's so much value in showing those, because the striking of the props can quite often cause issues in lower levels when they're looking to get in with partitions and exclusion zones for facade installation. And if you're just sequencing permanent works items, concrete frame, facade elements, external works, you're missing a trick. So I think the value is in that detail and that granularity.
But the same problems keep on happening on similar style jobs. It's like we have lesson learned workshops on projects that have gone wrong, but then it's funny, like you'll see in like 5 years time that there'll be a similar project that's had similar mistakes. All we're trying to do is spot as many of those potential mistakes as early as possible, and if that can de-risk 90% de-risk a project for a business, increase margin by 1%, like again, why wouldn't you do it?
I don't think there's really a negative side to doing 4D. It's just a mindset shift.
So I think the lessons learned, a lot of the time we look so detailed at. If it's not exactly the same, then we don't learn the lesson. But yeah, I think that's a really bad way of looking at it, to be honest.
No, I was going to say, like, I don't think it's just limited to like the technology side either, because again, as an industry, when you look at like modern methods of construction and doing as much as we can precast or prefabricated, there's still a bit of a reluctance on that. And again, the driver for it is cost. But then when you actually look at it properly and you use these methods properly, you're going to have a quicker program, you're going to have a safer project. If you've got a quicker program, it's going to cost less.
I see it where it's, I've got to do a competitive tender for these services, let's say, and you get 3 businesses lined up and you get 3 quotations, and although the scope sounds the same that you get back, the service you actually get is very different. And I think that's where you guys have spotted that niche where actually a lot of the benefits of 4D comes from the collaboration of people and de-siloing, making sure everybody understands the scope, and then using the animation as a tool to convey a message to everybody. And that on a piece of paper could look the same as 40 meetings and somebody else will provide that service, but they won't give the same level of service that you guys will offer, obviously, with that experience. So I think that's where it gets lost potentially in the market. But
it can be applied proactively at the start. So as Josh mentioned, that's the best time to obviously deploy it, to get that sort of future look ahead, iron out and hopefully resolve a good percentage of any issues that might crop up on the site. It's not obviously by any means a golden bullet, and it won't solve all your problems. You're still going to have that sort of day-to-day drag and unexpected changes and things that might happen, but you've got that tool throughout as a companion then to support with that. But if you've gone through the process, you've had issues on a project, you've got gappy reports or various versions of a program, your plans, your contracts, you're impacted, whatever that might look like, 4D is a great tool, an environment to help piece that picture together and tell a compelling story retrospectively that might be backed up by photo evidence from site, as well as a voiceover which is explaining the position. And where we've seen it used in the industry, especially in the UK, it's helped to really settle many disputes.
All the information and all the dates that are in that report and program references and everything else, you're seeing as part of your 4D model to tell the story. It's not an animation. It's the same principles, yeah. It's just using some proper site information.
I mean, I think the power for a lot of lawyers and a lot of commercial people and things like that, they're not necessarily looking at a program every single day, especially one which has got 10,000 activities or 100,000 activities on it. So the value I've seen from that is that you can start to chronologically order and see what things maybe should have looked like versus what they did look like, do those comparisons, and then put the evidence up in that kind of... I think that's really where you guys add that value, to make it simple for even for somebody like me to be able to see what's gone wrong and distill it into a message. Technology, a lot of people will be looking for, should they use this tool or that tool or whatever. But if you're without going into loads of crazy detail, I guess, what is in 2025, what would be your go-to technology stack for delivering 4D?
Again, we've got such an array of softwares as a suite of tools that we need. To be honest, it was one of the most prohibitive things to setting the business up, was the long list of softwares that you need to get your hands on to actually,
Yes.
Obviously, client information comes in all different shapes, forms and sizes, and I'd say obviously the obvious tool that we back as our primary delivery platform is Synchro by Bentley. It's somewhere we worked 15 years ago and we've used it ever since. We think for the style of 4D that we're delivering, which we obviously discussed, it offers the most comprehensive tool set for that live environment where you're looking to quickly look at options, manipulate your program, section your model. It just works really well in that environment that I've not seen in other tools, which doesn't say that other tools don't do that, but it's just where our vein of experience lies. On a 3D perspective, it's kind of your obvious culprits to a certain extent. Obviously the Autodesk suite, so a lot of stuff we receive is in Revit. Civils 3D we use a lot for civil schemes, obviously the clues in the name. But rebuilding topographical information and finding gaps in those sort of data sets and surveys and making that a usable 3D asset, that's a really useful tool for that. My personal tool of choice is Rhino, but equally Blender as well is sort of creeping into that fray. So Blender's got some great free plugins. It's got some great tools to utilize and leverage things from IFC models and things like that. So there's a huge, obviously then you've got your sort of your periphery tools, so your Photoshops, your Illustrators, your After Effects.
Don't forget PowerPoint.
Excel,
PowerPoint.
Certain data sets and things now through Power BI dashboards. So we've done a bit of Unreal, Twinmotion, Google Earth, amazingly, for just reviewing your context. And so it's a huge pool of... I've probably only got about halfway across my desktop bar at the bottom, to be fair. But
do you guys see AI starting to impact your business?
In certain ways. I mean, I use certain LLMs for a lot more now for supporting functions, having that sort of that, I guess, that employee in the office where if you're stuck a little bit with a process and with a piece of software, rather than scouring hundreds of forums and different user responses on Google, you can quite quickly set that to work and say, how would I overcome this problem in this process, whatever that might be. And I find it really useful as a support in that sense. On the front lines of what we're actually delivering to schemes at the moment, I'd say limited. Josh.
Okay.
But again, I think that's just because the people sit so heavily in our focus and our process, and obviously excited to see what Synchro Plus brings in 2026 through Bentley. So I think they've teased that there's obviously AI integration, as there is now with many tools on the market. So how we can, I think the big gains for us really will be in building of the models and automating that front end process, which we always say that really us going away for a week, 2 weeks and building a model, there's no value to our client until we get them that version 1 and they can start to review and absorb what we're building. So if we can shortcut that for that front end, and perhaps it doesn't shortcut it, perhaps it just enriches it further, perhaps it's you just get more done in that period. I think that's only a positive thing, really, and I think that's where we'll probably see it start to come in first of all.
Two things which I think AI it would be nice to help, and then one which I think is a big risk, which is so I'll start with the two nice ones. So obviously when you're in the meeting room with people and doing the workshops, capturing a lot of those conversations and that data essentially might be of some value potentially to help you frame. Because I think one thing that AI is very good at is that semantic type, where it's, people using, I really think we should do this, or I really think we should do that, rather than maybe we could do this. It's got a different meaning, and I think AI is really good at spotting that. And then, like you said about the linkage, like retaining that linkage and building the original one. But my fear is this kind of new, because people are so set on the animation, that these generative AIs like Nano Banana and Glyph and things like that, where you can build these animations from prompts, essentially, whether they start to disrupt the animation side, but obviously they've got no context back to a program, essentially. So you could feed it full of models and stuff, but essentially it would ruin the value prospect essentially for the 4D element, and it adds another layer of risk to the project. I can foresee it, and it might be very hard to see the fact that somebody's used it, and I think that might be a big risk, I think, going forward, where people hope, touch wood, they don't use the generative AI to build the construction sequences, at least not founded on the program.
You see a lot of this on LinkedIn in the architectural visualization space. Like you say, the whole AI generated. But I think in our arena, and I know Josh is going to jump in and probably say a very similar thing, but on a construction site where people are building things with their hands, people like to deal with people.
I think the two things for me are, I went to a CIOB evening event a couple of months back, and there was a talk on AI, and the presentation started off with talking about BIM level 2 and the BIM mandate, and they talked through the BIM level 2 mandate. It was like, everyone was doing it, everyone got a 3D model, they was doing BIM, brilliant. But they wasn't doing BIM, and here we are now, so many years on, and everyone's now talking about information management, the golden thread, ISO 19650. Is that the new BIM level 2? But to be fair, it's a lot. People are a lot more interested in this than the BIM level 2 mandate. And obviously these tools like 3D and 4D are kind of just standard on the ones that are doing it well. And he made a statement that this is just in the construction industry, will AI be the next BIM level 2? Where all these skeptical people in the industry will just look at it and go, I don't need AI to tell me how to do my job. I know what I'm doing. I've been and got my degree. I've been on site. I've got my learning, 20 years experience, and it almost be like, I don't need this technology. Get it away from me. Will it be like that? Comes back to what we were saying earlier about it's almost a bit patronising to tell a construction professional that's on the tools and knows their trade that this will do it better, or this will give you a better solution. And then the second one was with AI. I think it will disrupt, like Liam's just touched on, and yourself as well. It will disrupt, but I think coming back to what Validity are trying to do in the people and process side of things, you can only really get what we're offering from the service from a person.
For sure.
And I think I don't know, one of you both said it will only give you so much. The AI will give you so much as an answer, but again, it comes back to the old saying of rubbish in, rubbish out. Do you know what I mean? It just in simple terms, if you're giving these LLMs rubbish, and we said about jobs that don't learn the lessons, and we're doing the same things over and over again, you're only going to get the same answer back out if the same things are going in. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think there's a whole learning curve coming on that within construction. Like even in the businesses we worked in before Validity, there was scepticism around it and where it's going to fit into certain pillars of an organisation. Will it suit HR? Will it suit finance? Will it suit tools on the ground? Do you know what I mean? So I think it will have a place, but I think it will only be certain pockets of construction that it will have a place in.
The big thing that's holding AI back for construction is robotics, I think. So, I mean, if you take the car industry, for instance, you're doing all your designs, you're sequencing all of the logistics, and ultimately a robot's putting it together for the majority of it. But there's people around. That's why I really like your name, because that are validating the designs, validating it. There's people over the top. But the mundane work is offline to AI, and then the production is offline to robotics, essentially. So I think AI without robotics is not that sticky. But in 5-10 years' time, once robotics are standard on construction sites, I think that's really where we're going to get this manufacturing uplift, where it's people validating AIs for robots to manufacture and produce. I think so. I think it's AI plus robotics is the future of construction. But
we always welcome a conversation. Like I say, it's such an unscripted, organic arena. So if you feel nervous about your projects, if you don't know whether 4D is the solution, you don't know whether you're going to get the value out of it, we don't charge for a conversation. So please reach out via, I'd say LinkedIn's probably our hotbed, really. We've got a website which is validity.global, and I think off the back of this we might be starting a YouTube channel.
The construction industry it's a people's industry. Like, there's some great people in the industry. Don't overthink what the technology is. I think, like, as a business, we're basically like planning consultants. Just think of us of that. So we're not scary people. We're not trying to push some software down people's necks. We're here to help, and I think we'd come in as a partner, as part of your team. We'd be totally unbiased. We'd get your team together. We want to workshop your project with you. And I think we've all got the same end goal, which is to have a safer, more successful, more profitable project. And I suppose, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that is to build confidence.
I mean, I've definitely learned a lot, and there's a few things in there that I think people can take away for sure, like the people being the center of the approach to 4D and collaboration around it, so not just focusing on the software. Obviously there's been a lot of pain points that we've discussed throughout the session, but I think people using 4D not just for the tender animation, but using it beyond, whether it's in your claims and disputes, but ultimately you want it throughout the life cycle to get the most, or harness the most value out of it. And I think it touches everybody, not just the contractor. So I think that's a key takeaway, and interesting insights on the technology as well from my perspective. So thank you very much for your time today, Liam and Josh. I'll make sure that all of your contact details are in the description and in the post, so people can get hold of you and harass you for the free consultation, like you said in the in the video. And
thanks, James.
Thank you very much for your time.